Let me start by saying welcome, everybody. My name's Steve Allegrezza. I'd like to welcome you to today's Lead and Learn. If this is your first time attending, first and foremost, we're so glad that you're here. So IHFRA hosts Lead and Learn webinars on a monthly basis. Our goal is providing an opportunity for our members to tap into the wealth, knowledge, and experience of our community. It's a way for our members to share their expertise, best practices, and ideas, but also learn from each other and learn from our peers. So today's topic is best practices when prospecting new lines and pioneering. So our goal is to discuss kind of some essential strategies for prospecting new furniture lines, share best practices for pioneering new products. And as a reminder, this is meant to be an open dialogue. And so we encourage you to share your best practices and engage with the group. So before we even really start the discussion, I thought this topic would be really timely, relevant, especially on the cusp of the Las Vegas furniture market. Really, any trade show, just like Las Vegas, they're filled with new companies, new brands, and they're looking to engage with sales representatives, build a U.S. presence. They might have a strong base of business, maybe in a home country or just a different part of the world, but they're really new to the U.S. market for whatever reason. Many of these companies might have some just general misconceptions about the U.S. market. As we know, the U.S. market it's really difficult to define. It's not really one market. It's many micro markets. This country is the melting pot after all. The Canadian market is very different from the U.S. market. Different product types are going to resonate there compared to down here in High Point, North Carolina, where we like our Big and Bubba. So when we start engaging with these new companies, some of the questions that we want to ask are, do they understand the landscape here? Do they understand some of the challenges and the unique characteristics of the U.S. market? And most importantly, do they have a plan? So I thought I'd start the conversation by really just, I think we all have our own sort of definition of what does it mean to prospect a new line. For me, I said that prospecting a new furniture line is like doing due diligence when buying a house. Just like you wouldn't purchase a home or a car without first inspecting it thoroughly, evaluating the neighborhood, understanding the market value. That's, in my experience, what really smart reps do when they're looking at new lines. So you're reviewing them with the same level of scrutiny. It involves researching and evaluating the company to the best of your ability. What do the product lines look like? Do you understand the value proposition, the market potential, all of that good stuff? And so I thought before we open it up to a general discussion, because I want to get everyone's feedback here, I thought of just like, wouldn't it be great if we had a checklist, kind of a punch list to go down, kind of like a Carfax report. Again, I equate it to buying a home or a vehicle or something like that. Before you sign on the dotted line or engage with that company, you want to make sure everything checks out and there's no hidden fees, right, or anything silly like that. So at a high level, if I were to create that checklist, it would be talk to me about the company. Where are they from? What is the financial health the company? What does the product look like? Does it resonate in the market? What is the market demand and trends looking like? What is that company's unique selling proposition? Who are their competitors? Do they have any existing existing business? Can they give me some sort of testimonial or some sort of case study showing that yes, this product does work. It does resonate in this market. So I wanted to very quickly. So my background in a repping capacity has been e-commerce. So my wish list that I'm getting ready to share with you I'll say is more tailored to me. This is not a, we'll say this is not IHFRA approved material, but this is my personal wish list that I used to use when having conversations with new lines. So I'm going to share this wish list in the chat. I'll share my screen, and then I'd like to open it up really for discussion and ask, what's missing from this list, and get your feedback, because the folks on this call are probably going to have more experience than I do as far as working a territory of being boots on the ground. So let me put this in chat, and then we'll start a conversation. Let me open this up here. Okay, so, oh, cool. All right, let's try this. Or better yet, let me share my screen, because apparently I'm not getting this quite right today. And I'll share this with everyone in chat. So here we go. All right, so this was my wish list. First things first on that list is, do I understand the expectations of this company? And are there clear goals being set? Do I understand on my end what is the commission rate? Just am I able to have that transparent, open dialogue with that company to ensure that we're on the same page, that we're aligned on our goals, sales targets, performance, all of that good stuff. And again, these are in no particular order, but I thought that one's very important. So that was top of mind. For me, the next thing was, okay, so what is the product line? What does the brand story look like? What are their core pillars? I'll use that. I'm going to borrow that from Sam, who's on the call. Really, like, what does this company stand for? What's their brand story? So I can communicate that as an ambassador of their brand. Do they have, and again, this is probably the biggest one for us e-commerce folks on the call. What do their digital assets look like? What are their products? What does their product information look like? Do we have access to high quality images, detailed information, all the things that we need to accurately sell their product? And then when it is, let's say, placed in a retailer store, do we have all the content that we need to get that product on that retailer's website so they can market it effectively? I look at what type of technology and tools they use. Do they have some sort of digital catalog? Are they equipping me with what I need to be successful out on the road? Do they have, maybe it's Renaissance, where they have a website catalog and they can transact, it can plug into the retailer's ecosystem that they are currently using. Are there marketing materials available? Let's see. I also said, have they done their competitive analysis? Do they have, I worked for one brand that said, all right, well, here are our top 3 competitors. Here's what you need to know about all of our competition, so that way you understand who you're going up against. Is there some sort of feedback loop? Is there a way to provide feedback to this company, and do they do anything with it? Oftentimes the feedback that I would give is, hey, we've really got to do something about our images. They're not meeting our standards. If we want to sell online, we need more than one image for an entire group of products, and we need individual silos. We need detail shots. We need, Sam, I know deep down you feel my pain. You've been there. So do they listen when you give them feedback? Are they willing to get you the things that you need? Let's see. I said performance incentives, flexible sales policies, after sales support. That is a massive one right there. What sort of support mechanisms do they have in place to support their retail customers? Do they have marketing or co-op dollars if you bring them a new customer? And then again, kind of loops back to technology. Are they not just providing the tools that you need to succeed, but are they showing you and training you on how to utilize them to the best of your ability? So those were things that came top of mind for me. I'm sure this is just the beginning of a list. And one thing that I thought would be really helpful is hearing from you. And with that, I'll keep this up, but I would very much love for everyone to weigh in. I'm not going to call on anybody, but if you feel compelled, please share. And I'm going to make notes so I can take this list and improve it. So with that, I open it up. And I did mute everybody. So if you want to jump in, make sure we unmute.
Steve, I think you need to add what shows do they exhibit at?
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the, since a lot of products we cannot carry with us in our cars as we see people, the only way that people will actually see the products is at market.
Yeah, and with that, I think it goes back to maybe what are they providing as far as, like, if you're carrying an upholstery line, are they providing swatch kits? Do they have samples? Do they have all the things that you can carry with you too? What else? Maybe I will put some of you on the spot.
Hi, Steve.
Christian.
Yeah,
yes,
me personally, the first thing I'm looking on top of my list is the values of the company, because sometimes the values are not fitting mine, and even if they have all those check marks all over the place, if the values are not the same than my value, it won't work.
Thank you. That is critical, and you're so right.
That's way better than my gut check. I walk in, I was like, ooh, my gut says no. Let's talk about your values. I love it.
I'm also going to go ahead and put gut check down on the list. You're right. So it's got to feel good. I mean, Wendy, going back to your comment in market, I mean, there's a lot to be said about walking into a showroom and how prepared are they for the show? Do they have their collateral in place? Do they have a proper presentation? Maybe this is less relevant for y'all, but for me, it was, do I have a again, kind of goes back to, do I have a voice, and do I have a feedback loop, or better yet, just a communication loop into leadership of the company? One company I did do some work with, owner of the company was on that sales floor, and he wanted to be front and center and present, engaging with those customers, engaging with the reps, and get their feedback. And that really resonated with me as someone who, hey, if I'm going to go out and be the brand ambassador, I want to see that this person is in the trenches with me. So that was very, very important.
Yeah, I think the whole people aspect, because it's the reputation of the sales manager, the reputation of the president of the company, just going back to what Christian just said about the values of, do you know the person and do you trust them?
Okay. Yeah, trust. Kimberly, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot for a second, if that's okay. But I know you come from, you've had experience both as a rep, but also as someone who's, owns a marketing firm. And what are some things that you look for if you're working for a company and you want to properly be able to tell their story and present their products? I mean, from that side of it, is there anything that we could add to this list or improve upon?
Well, I definitely like all of the, the marketing part of your list here. It's so important to have all of the technology, to be able to go to market and to have that in your bag. And I feel like, so many manufacturers are getting better at this. They've come a long way at it. And so as long as a rep, you're asking for these things, they need to provide those things. So I think that that's important. But even getting back to what Christian and Wendy just said, I think, so many times I go to the reps of that company to talk to them, you know, and I feel like there's a camaraderie, and you're going to get real answers and real, you know, feedback from those, good and bad, and you know, of people that have been representing that line. So I think that when you're talking about, you know, values, is if the reps themselves, you know, not just the management, but you know, you look at those reps on the street, and are those, do you feel at home with those folks? And so I think that that's an important part of it too. But I absolutely feel like technology, if I personally would steer clear of a line that they're not, you know, right on board with the technology that I would need to sell their product.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. But I think you guys nailed it. It's like, you know, we're all working in a very relationship driven industry, and you guys, there's your gut check right there. It's what are the core values? Can, you know, is this a company that you want to enter into a relationship with? And do you feel at home there? Do you feel welcome there? Do you feel empowered there? Do you feel trusted? And all of those things that, you know, can't be provided through an app, right? So, okay, anyone else want to add to this? I'll turn this off and go back to everybody else here.
Well, Stephen, just a little sidebar, I guess, as for IHFRA, is that also, you know, do they support the rep association? Does that manufacturer support rep association? Because as we all know, that becomes very important when you are running your own small business on behalf of a manufacturer.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and if I could add or throw a couple more questions out, and then we're going to shift gears and talk a little bit about pioneering. And then towards the end of this conversation, I actually asked a friend of mine to join this call. And Bailey, I won't put you on the spot just yet, but Bailey, is it fair to say you are a retailer plus you're also a manufacturer, you are a brand? And I wanted to get someone on that side of the fence and their perspective to talk about, okay, well, what does this prospecting scenario look like from the vendor side of it? So we'll have that discussion here too in a few minutes. But just generally speaking, to wrap up prospecting, so how do y'all do your research on a brand? You know, is it feedback from other reps in the field, or maybe like say the IHFRA community? Hey, what do you know about this company? What do you know about this line? How are you doing your due diligence?
I usually start at the floor level.
What do you mean by that?
I'll look at the gaps. I'll look at the gaps at the retail level. What's missing or what can be optimized? You know, I've had the privilege of working on the e-commerce side with so many vendors, but I still work with a brick and mortar who's a very large brick and mortar. So I really want to walk their floor, you know, go through their e-commerce plan and say, you know, what are we missing here? What price point are we missing? What logistically is not working with you with a vendor, and see if I can fit that niche. And if I know the relationships, then that's an easy in, because you bring the buyer to the manufacturer and they're like the answer is yes, it's a pretty easy in. But if not, you know, somewhere there is a good fit. And that's where I start. I always start at the retail floor and see where the gaps are and the opportunities.
Is it fair to say that you can do a similar analysis with that new vendor and their line, or you kind of you start with the retailers, you know, and your book of business as a seasoned, experienced sales representative, because you know the landscape of your territory or the world that you're working in, and you say, okay, does this fit? Does it make sense? Right? Is that, am I understanding you correctly? Okay. And
also had
go
success
ahead.
in talking with other sales reps in other parts of the country, you know, talk to the North Carolina rep, hey, what lines do you represent and what's working well for you, you know, or, you know, wherever the territory is, but just talking with other sales reps of what is in their package and what's working and what's not.
Do you find, not shifting gears, but if you are looking at a brand new line that maybe is either coming in or maybe that's been established overseas that is new to the US market, and I'm going to just ask the group, do you look at working any sort of unique terms into a contract? What do you do if we have any brand new reps listening to this days, weeks, months down the road? What sort of advice would you give them as far as like having an agreement or a contract in place, or something that they could do to protect themselves when working with let's say a newer line that's coming into the US market? It's a big question, loaded question, but I'd love to get everyone or someone's feedback.
I haven't run into that scenario, so I can't speak to it.
That's fair.
But Steve, would it be fair to say there's a
You know, for me, it comes to, sorry, go ahead, Ray.
Go ahead, Sam.
For me, it comes down to who's holding the risk. So if I believe in this company and I believe in the product and my buyer really loves it, who is the last to be paid? And it's usually the rep. So in that situation, let's look at how I'm not holding all of the risk. So if you're getting a half deposit on that container, you know, I want my half deposit. So be creative there, because we're the last to get paid and that's just too risky.
That's fair. I've also heard from, or Ray, what were you going to add to that?
Well, just kind of 2 points that came up. One would be, and Sam just kind of touched upon it, and you did too. Are there different challenges, and I would assume they are, when you're prospecting with a company overseas that may not have a track record? And then just to go back to your list of things that might be important, really at the end of the day, you know, we're a fashion business, we're a solutions business, but we're really a logistics business that's in the business of moving boxes. Those boxes happen to be furniture. How important would you guys say is really understanding the strength of their supply chain before you get in bed with them?
Well,
Yes.
that's hard. That's a difficult thing, because then there's some real research involved at that point, right? And you know, we're warehousing a line that's, you know, coming over from China that you know, we're finding all kinds of issues that we didn't realize were going to happen, you know, and this is just on a warehousing end. And so yeah, it's hard. You have to, if you haven't had to pay attention to all of the supply chain aspects, then you need to start doing homework and really digging and going, you know, and finding those people that can really help, because that's kind of where we are right now, is having to learn a lot about that aspect. But I think as a rep pulling a line and then all of a sudden you're working containers all the time, it's a whole new ball game. It really is a learning curve.
Mm. Yeah, and again, I'll say, in my opinion, I think it's probably fair to say it depends on you, right? Like, as the rep, you know your customer base, you know the needs of your retailer. If you're a rep that is, or I should say a sales professional who is catering more towards the higher end design community, maybe you need something where the company, this new vendor has stuff in stock in the US, or you can do a special order program. Or when I handled e-commerce, or Sam's doing e-commerce, I imagine it's, well, one, do you have a warehouse? Do you have a US entity? And how quickly can you ship? What are your lead times? It's if I want to be successful online, I need to ship same day or next day, or so it's, do you have the infrastructure to support the goals that you're setting? And that could be different based on your customers. But yeah, so you nailed it. Supply chain can make or break something.
This one. And I know we're not quite to that time yet, but it's so apropos, I can't hold back. I think that the exchange of widgets can be very hypothetical and heady. I bought 18 cans of product 76532, and they're coming in 6 to 8 weeks. The thing that I found was so impactful was bringing my reps to my warehouse and letting them see what 102,000 square feet of furniture looks like, and showing that it is real, it is concrete. I don't know if that is silly, but the investment for me to bring them there and do the training there and show, this is our operation. This is Bob, he's in charge of all of this. And when you send an order, it goes to him and fulfillment, and they fulfill it. And that's the concrete practice of a dropship order or an LTL order or an FTL order. I mean, I can show you my, the lists of cans that I bring in, but at the end of the day, a computer screen or a spreadsheet is one thing. A very large warehouse stacked to the gills with best-selling couches is quite another. And I have a cohort of reps who have seen the warehouse and a cohort of reps who haven't. And the cohort of reps that have I think, an imbued trust and a more concrete understanding of what we're doing.
Well then, Bailey, maybe this is a good time to sort of shift gears. So as we sort of wrap our conversation about prospecting a new line, talk to me about, what is your prospecting, if you want to call it that, process look like when you are interacting with sales rep or independent sales reps? What do you look for? What does your checklist look like?
So your checklist, there were 2 areas where I see we could really improve. One is at this stage in the game, our aesthetic director is very set on creating all of the anything that you provide to a potential buyer, he wants to create it because he's very keen on the look and feel being in line. I see no reason why we can't create marketing materials that you can edit and then use. So that was really helpful. For me, I have to find, I'm Bailey, by the way. I own American Homestead Furniture. I am a retailer in that we've been manufacturing and importing product for our retail stores for the last decade. I'm no longer involved with that. I have the same products and I'm offering them to other retailers. For me, we're a newer name, and I have to find reps that are willing to take a risk and reps that are willing to jump in and trust. And then I have to prove that, if you order an FTL load out of the warehouse, I have to show them that, yep, we can fill that up. We can handle the operations if you would prefer, and we can get it to you in a very timely manner. And to this point, we've been able to do that for all of our reps. But it's proving it, again and again and again. And for me also, really, I'm not going to be able to hand my reps, well, like to some extent I can, but I'm not going to be able to hand my reps huge accounts that are ordering again and again and again and again. It's going to be a lot of prospecting. So on my end, it's creating those leads, it's getting you the emails, it's getting you the contact information, it's making the introductions for you, providing you with catalogs, providing you with swatches, providing you with a website that's simple. It's not a flashy website. It's not a website that's not a lot going on, but it's enough. It's the marketing materials you need. It's videos to offer your reps. It's training to learn more about the product. It's, you know, at least 15 images of each product that varies from, you know, white backdrop to fully staged, real stage, fake staged, like AI. But I will say, the one thing I have observed in trying to prospect reps is there's a tremendous amount of distrust. And I think that that distrust is well earned. I think that what you do is very hard. I grew up in a home where my father was an independent sales rep in the oil industry. And if he wasn't selling oil, he wasn't bringing home a lot of money. So I get that. And you know, one really good point you made, Sam, I think made was, if I get half down on a can and that can isn't coming for 6 to 8 weeks, why don't I get paid on that half down? You should. That's a great point and something I can very easily quick and fix in my contract with my reps. And I'm happy to do it. If I have the money, then why shouldn't it be passed through to you? That makes sense to me. I do still, of course, have the risk when it arrives to court, not having the other half, but yeah, whatever. I'll figure it out. That's a really good point. But for me, I feel like there's a lot of distrust and walls that I have to break through.
So dare I ask the question, you know, you're on a call with some of the best reps I know. How can she break through those walls? How can she build that trust? What feedback or best practices could y'all share with Bailey?
I think the biggest thing is being in communication, you know, other than delivering what you say you're going to do, but being in communication and also letting people know what the vision is of the company and reiterating that all the time. We're here for the long run. Hey, we're in the HFA center now. We're looking for a booth. You know, we're looking for this, like, you know, just with our journey, and thank you for being here, and just that constant communication. That gives a good foundation of trust, and then obviously delivering what you say you're going to do.
Oh,
And it goes both ways.
The spot I'm looking
You know?
at in High Point is incredible, like unlike anything you've ever
Awesome.
seen. And
Very
I haven't
cool.
shared that with my reps. That's awesome. Thank you. That's fantastic.
Awesome.
I think along with that communication goes transparency. Not that I don't think it's that people are trying to hide information. It's just going back to, they just forget to tell people. And it could be, just, you know, different interest things, different leads, you know, make sure all the leads go to the reps, make sure any orders that come in direct, the customer or the reps know about any direct orders that are being placed with the company so that they can also follow up, and just being as transparent about business transactions.
How do you like to receive training?
I love your idea of bringing people into the warehouse. I mean, bringing them into a facility, if a manufacturer or company is willing to do that, I think that is by far the best. I mean, when we went to Peacock Alley and saw how they, you know, seeing their sewing machines and how they actually sew things in their Dallas, you know, warehouse was incredible for our team. And we learned a lot more and can talk, we're more knowledgeable about how to talk about a company. But I guess second to that would be a Zoom call, and then also in-person training at a market when you can have product around to do training. Just taking the time out to do that.
How often? Let's say a video meeting. How often are you willing to attend?
Anytime there's new product.
Yeah, it's that communication loop. You know, if it's new, even if it's, hey guys, it's 20 minutes. I need you in at 8 a.m., Zoom call. We're just going to go over, here are the tools that you need to know so that you can hit the road. And then every single market in person. Even if it's talking about the exact same thing. And you can go into what people actually retain when they listen to things. And it's just a little bit more and a little bit more. And it's like, double. I was literally in a training. They were like, what is a double seam? You've been in the industry for 40 years. You don't know what, like, what are you talking about? So it doesn't fray, like all these simple little things. So it didn't hear it. And they've been in the industry for 40 years. So all the time.
Yeah. Well, and I think to that point, it's often assumed that just because you've been in the business, X number of years, that you are not just an expert or product expert, you're a product expert on all products. And every brand, every company has their own unique selling features and selling points, and use different techniques. And yeah, I mean, I've worked for companies where there's days and days and days upon training, and then there have been companies where it's like, all right, well, here's your login, have fun. So I think it's like anything else. It's how does the phrase go? You get back what you put in. Especially if you're trying to build a relationship, not just with your retailers and your customers, but with your reps too. I think you can't just expect it to be a one-way street. You've got to invest in them for them to invest in you.
I think, Bailey, when you talk about distrust amongst reps, I think it's because so many of us have been burned by, and this I'll speak to mattresses, because this happened to me personally in mattresses, where you pick up a line, it's a small line, you're willing to go out there and work and hustle it, and then as soon as you bring in a big fish, it's, oh well, the vice president of our company's been working on that relationship, or there's always somebody else that has that relationship, and they don't feel like you should be paid on it or partially paid or however. And I just feel, or they send two people to cover the same area just to see who can get to what fastest. And all those things have happened and continue to happen. And where you're not really getting a protected territory, or it's not defined well enough. And I think that's on our end, being sure that our contracts and and everything is disclosed and that, but it happens a lot, and it happens especially with smaller and startups and all of that. And so I think that's why you see that distrust is just because they feel like they're going to put out a lot of effort and then it's going to be taken away.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And yeah, and if anyone hasn't seen it, I'm pretty sure Ray, who's on the call, just wrote a pretty great article for Home News Now pretty recently about that practice. Or, well, there's been several written because, as you said, Kimberly, it's fortunately all too common practice. So for the sake of time, we've got about 20 minutes left. I definitely want to shift gears and kind of discuss sort of best practices with pioneering. I think that term can be different for everybody. It depends on our role and our target customers and what we're doing. But I tried to define it, and I said, it involves introducing and promoting a new product line to the market. It's just simply put, you are getting something new to an already established market. Requires establishing the brand's presence, building relationships with customers, and driving sales. So for this next portion, I asked Ray to come up with some best practices for pioneering. So I'm going to share my screen and put that up. And again, very much love to get you guys to take a peek, and then we can see what's missing, add to it, and go from there and have a conversation about it.
Hey, Steve, can I preface that with something while you're
Please.
up there? I'd also really love your input. Prospecting, I guess we'd agree, is tough enough in a robust market. The retailers are more prone to try something new. Is the fact that the business is kind of stagnant right now, is that a curse, or is it not an opportunity where you could position like, hey, you know, you need something to jumpstart? I guess what I'm asking is, when you amend and enhance that list of best practices for prospecting, any comments on dialogue or conversation points when business is challenged like it has been now?
I think we need more time to make the sale. I think in this current environment, it's hard enough to sell goods that people know about. And when you're trying to sell them a good that is new to them, they're not as willing to spend the dollars to take a risk on something that they don't know is going to sell for them on their floor.
And it's hard to have a conversation around newness with people. It's hard to, I've found, if XYZ that you've been doing for 10 years isn't working, maybe we try ABC that's new. It's very scary to try something new in a market like this. I have a lot of sympathy for that. Again, I was a retailer first, so I get it.
All right, well, here we go, y'all. Oh, can everyone see that? It's showing up real small on my end. All right. Someone give me a thumbs up if they can see the shared screen, please. All right, thank you, Wendy. All right, so pioneering new lines, best practices. So obviously having that deep product knowledge, you know, knowing your product features, the benefits, the selling points, knowing your competition, right? Understanding the target market, preparing training and resources, and not just engaging in product training sessions, but then also be prepared to do and host those training sessions, having all the right sales tools, marketing materials, and collateral at your disposal. You know, setting a strategy. Again, I think this goes back to the communication part. So I would say when you're pioneering, have that conversation with the vendor, with the factory, about setting clear goals, expectations. And then of course, you, having known your territory better than everyone else, you know, you understand the strategy and your customer base to include, you know, the outreach method, timing, all that stuff. Building relationships, craft your compelling pitch. You know, again, what's the value proposition? Utilizing effective communication channels and the right tools. Seek feedback and adapt. Monitor performance, and then of course, you know, staying motivated, staying resilient, having your own personal goals. You know, learn to accept rejection or you know, understand overcoming adversity and objection, because it will be there. All right, and then collaborating with your team, you know, sharing insights, working with each other's strengths. And then, of course, we don't preach about it enough, but we should. But just maintaining the ethical standards that, including transparency, you know, focusing on your customer, but really kind of best practices when it comes to just ethical standards when it comes to just the rep ecosystem, right? So I'll keep this up. You know, a couple things that I also listed that I would say would be in addition to the list, or kind of go hand in hand, just I said, setting clear expectations. So clear communication with not just the factory, but with customers. So when you're talking about the new line and you are out in the field pioneering, it's setting realistic, delivery goals, product performance, expectations there, honest commitments, avoid overpromising and then under delivering. So make sure you can deliver on your commitments to build trust and credibility. Communicating updates, so providing regular updates, keeping customers informed, being in contact with potential new accounts on a regular basis, and staying top of mind. Using multiple channels. So again, I believe that's on there. So just different media channels, newsletter, emails, phone calls, all that good stuff, and then just making sure you have the support again from the company. Engage with leadership, keeping open lines of communication there. Make sure you're getting the guidance, support that you need, and requesting resources. If you don't have the right materials, make sure you can get it and make sure they can provide it in a timely manner. And then I thought of just, again, throwing some spaghetti on the wall, but like, as somebody, as a rep who is pioneering a new line, like, do you have the right tech stack, we'll call it? Do you have a CRM platform to kind of log your interactions with your customers? Do you have a communication tool to where you can send those e-blasts or send that marketing material out to all of your existing or potential customers? Do you have any apps that you're utilizing to map out your travel plans or that can plug into your CRM? So just as we review this list and just kind of have this conversation, I would love to get everyone's feedback about, what do you do as best practices when you're out there pioneering a new line, or if you're not currently doing that, and think back to when you were a new rep, what were some? I like to look at it through the lens of, if we are recording this for a brand new rep coming into the industry that has no choice but to pioneer a new line because he is pioneering a territory on his or her own time. What advice would you give them? So with that, I'll open it up for discussion. Sam, any thoughts that you'd like to add? Put you on the spot.
I'm so sorry. I have the worst internet ever today. It keeps kicking me out. I didn't hear the question. I was like, "Hey."
No, just my question was, if we're recording this for a brand new independent sales professional, someone that just comes into the business, and regardless of whether it's an established territory or not, what advice would you give somebody that is essentially pioneering a new line and a new territory? What best practices would you share with them?
Believe in what you're doing. Believe in the company, believe what you're selling, believe in the buyer, believe in what you're doing. If you believe it, anybody will buy anything from you.
So we'll call that the Ted Lasso approach.
But
yeah, you got to believe.
Yeah, you do. You really do.
Yeah.
I only will represent people that in things that I never wanted to be in sales. But at the same time, if I believe in something, then you better believe that it's going to work for you. There you go. My 2 cents.
All right.
I think one of the things too is I talk to people is just also that you have to be patient when you first start. As much as we all want to make money as fast as we can, I mean, the typical cycle is you don't get paid till the product ships, and then, so you're talking at least 60 days for most people before they start to get paid. And they need to know that going in, that it's going to be a little bit to get a paycheck, and it may be a little bit before their paycheck buys more than gas. So I think that's the hardest part about why
It takes
we don't-
3 years.
Yeah. So I think that's the hardest part is
Yeah.
that there's so many other positions out there that people can make money quicker, and they have to realize that this is a lifestyle that in the long run will sustain them and give them a lot of joy, but in the short term, it may be pretty painful with the paycheck.
Yeah, I mean, we again, I can only draw on the experience I have with e-commerce. When I used to work with Wayfair, they'd say, "Oh, well, it's going to take X amount of time to get the flywheel going, right? You've got to check all the boxes," and oftentimes that it would be really, if you're lucky, 6 months before the flywheel is really going. At least I would say now it's probably more like a year in some cases, because that the online channel can be very, 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 very flooded, and it can be very costly if you want to kick that flywheel into motion quicker. So yeah, regardless of what channel of distribution you're going after, it is an investment. It's a long-term investment, but you said it best, Wendy. It's a lifestyle, and it comes with a lot of perks, right? I think a lot of reps that I talk to say, hey, I wanted to be a rep because I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to be able to go to my kid's soccer game, things like that. There's a little bit of freedom, but that also gets confused for laziness, and that's some of the reps I know are some of the hardest working individuals I know, because they are always on. They may turn their phones off for an hour to participate in a life event or be present at their kids' soccer game, but they are always on. And if they're not successful, like you said, you're not getting a paycheck. If you don't do your job, you're not getting paid.
Well, that's also why a lot of us have to have multiple lines, that we don't just rep for one company, because as an independent contractor, especially, we want to make sure that we have that flywheel going. If it's not with one company, another company. So that's why we tend to have a few things in our line package, is to make sure that there's always cash coming in from something every month.
Yeah. I did want to point out, just not to shine a light on a different area or different best practice, but there are some tools out there, I would say, for young reps. Like we had a great kickoff party last market with the FurnitureDealer.net folks, mm-hmm. right? And one of the tools that they have and that they've been working on for a long time is that Furnish Near Me website. And there's actually you can go in and register as a rep for free, and with doing that, you can essentially map out your territory, and it would provide sort of a list of all the known retailers within that territory. So there are some unique tools out there that are sort of industry specific that I think could help a new rep starting out. So maybe when we finish recording this, I can plug in a link to their site to that tool, but just throwing that out there also. But there's some tech in there too that could be helpful. Let's see, Christian or Lynn, anything that y'all would like to add when it comes to pioneering or prospecting, for that matter?
They can always use, if it's a new line, they can always take it to their primary accounts, because hopefully that new line is something that you think fills that customer's need. That's where I would start, with my existing account list.
Yeah.
On my side, I will say, like Samantha said at the beginning, our job, it's a marketing job, first of all. So we need to know the dealers in the territory. We need to map them. We need to make sure that we're visiting them. We walk the floor. We see opportunities. And before disturbing the owner or the buyers, we need to make sure that we create, we meet them with a solution. We have something to help them to increase their revenue their bottom line, their upper line, their profit, whatever it is, sales by square foot, anything who show that you did your homework, and not only you did your homework, but you're there for helping them and create value. I think that's the most important thing on my side, to make sure they trust me and they're buying from me. So if I'm having a new line to develop, I will start by doing research online, checking if they have some retail store that I don't know really well, because I'm not dealing with my actual line. Maybe that line will fit there anymore. So a lot of things have to be done before meeting the buyer or the owner and show him or show her, show them the products. I think for me, that's the most important thing. It's doing our study and homework, and knowing that we are entrepreneur and marketing guy.
Thank you. All right. Bailey, from your end, I mean, like, what we talked about, some best practices, you know, that we could all use for pioneering, but like, again, maybe it goes back to prospecting, like, for the existing reps that you work with, or potential reps that are out there that might be watching this one day, you know, how would you come alongside them, support them, work with them? How have you already done that? Because you've shared some stories with me about how you've helped some reps and worked with them, because to you, I think it's more like a partnership. So how do you go alongside and essentially pioneer with your reps, or support your reps through that process?
I've found that B2B marketing is actually, there's a lot you can take from B2C marketing that works in the B2B realm. So having a social media presence for us is huge. Going from having a very established B2B presence in my retail world to an unestablished, starting back at day one about 9 months ago, was humbling. And we're growing, and getting my reps involved there was huge. Email marketing is obviously really big, especially in the lead up to market and when launching new products. So I offer my reps one of two things. Either I'm going to provide you the marketing materials. Here's, you know, this, basically just put this into an email, send it to your contacts. Alternatively, I have a very robust email funnel that I use that's very like timed. So they receive this email on this day, they're going to get this email on this day, then they'll get these. So it's either I'm sending the email with the contacts that you provide me, or you're sending this email to your contacts. And ideally it's in this cadence, because we know this is the cadence that works. But I like to, in an ideal world, I'm doing a lot of back end marketing for them, so that we're staying top of mind for their customers. And it's more agnostic that way. It's not Shane or Josh or Rex constantly sending these emails. It's the company umbrella. It's the company as a whole sending these emails as a reminder. That has been really important for me. And then I do a lot of, I use technology to find contacts that fit within the different markets that we want to hit. There are markets that we are not interested in being in, so I don't, you know, find contacts there, but are casting a really wide net and then using technology to narrow that down. And then once we've narrowed it to some extent, passing those leads on. So I'm initially, for every state, I give my reps about 50 leads that are not necessarily vetted. And then from there, once I have a rep in that state, I start vetting them. I start narrowing it down. I start providing them with leads that have shown interest, because there's obviously a huge difference between someone who's already buying and someone who's never heard of you. And then kind of trying to be very clear. This lead is on this end of the spectrum, and this lead is on this end of the spectrum. And you're going to behave very differently depending. But I want to provide them with as much as I can.
Okay, so you're maybe doing some social media marketing, seeing who's engaging with with your content, seeing who's got the interest, and then so even though there may not be an existing book of business in one particular area, you have a good understanding of who's clicking on it, who's engaged, who's liking your posts or whatever the case may be, and you're able to provide that information as solid leads. So you're empowering your reps through technology, through leads, through resources on that end.
I'm owning most of the technology, like the heavy lifting, and then trying to pull from that the worthwhile communications and contacts. So
okay,
I can't
all right.
imagine just hitting the ground running with a catalog. I can't.
Yeah.
That's fair. Ray,
I
I'd
applaud
love to
anyone
get-
who has though. Oh my goodness, that's incredible.
Yeah, Ray, I'm going to ask you what are we not? I mean, you've seen what pioneering has looked like for a lot of folks during your time, both at IHFRA and just in the industry. What would you say do you hear typically from a rep when you talk to them about a brand new line? Like, are they asking questions? Or are they saying, "Oh no, I don't have time for that. My bag's full." Like, I've always gotten kind of a mixed bag. So I'm just curious to hear what your take is, both from just the pioneering process in general, and what that might look like now in today's world, and then what are you hearing from some of the reps that you talk to, and what's their general feedback?
Well, once again, the big challenge with the industry is we're not a size 40 off the rack. There's never one size fits all. There's never one answer. My experience is the more successful the rep has been, the less interested they are in prospecting because they don't want to take time away from their bread and butter lines. By the same token, some of the best reps I know, while they do a great job servicing their cash cow lines, always keep an eye out for something interesting that could be new because they're always looking to bring a solution to the retailer. So I think it's a two-edged sword. I think you could cut through the stagnancy at retail, and it could, if done improperly, cut into the rep's time that he or she should be spending on more specific areas. So I guess it's kind of like a mixed bag.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So look, we've actually gone over a couple minutes, so I want to be respectful of everyone's time. If there's any last comments that anyone is dying to make, I'd encourage you to share them now. And if not, we'll wrap it up for the day. Any final words?
I learned a lot, so thank you.
All right. I can take that. All right, so I will say thank you, everybody, for participating today. Hopefully, we've all found this information valuable and actionable. If you have any additional questions, looking for other resources, certainly reach out to not just the IHFRA team here in the office, but make sure you reach out to your community around you, the IHFRA community. That is where the true wealth of knowledge and information is. So with that, I'll say thank you again. We're going to look forward to seeing you at our next Lead and Learn webinar. That should be happening August 30th. The topic